Good morning and happy 2023. I'm Reverend Vaughan Amaré, and I'm here with Reverend Michael Amaré. And here at Northern Light Spiritual Center, we have Reba with us. Northern Light Spiritual Center is a community of people dedicated to using spiritual and practical principles to create lives we want to live. Northern Light Spiritual Center offers practical and spiritual tools to make positive changes in our lives. And we promise to reveal, inspire, uplift, celebrate, and magnify your greatness. So let's hear that again. We're here to reveal, inspire, uplift, celebrate, and magnify your greatness. Please join me for our opening song. We acknowledge our presence here on the traditional and unceded lands of the first peoples of Seattle, the Duwamish and Coastal Salish peoples. These people are still here, and we join with them in how they continue to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage. We seek to resist the erasure of Indigenous histories as we work towards honoring and inviting the truth. We also acknowledge that much of what we know in this country today, including our culture, economic growth, and development across time and history, has been made possible by the labor of enslaved Africans and their ascendants who suffered the horrors of transatlantic trafficking of their people, chattel slavery, and Jim Crow. We also named directly the Asian and Chicano people who toiled with little recognition. We are indebted to their labor and their sacrifice, and we acknowledge the tremors of that violence throughout the generations and the resulting impacts that can still be felt and witnessed today. And this is inspired by T.J. Stewart. Please join me for our opening song, In This Very Room. In this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough peace and quite enough power to walk through our every fear. For Spirit, sweet Spirit, is in this very room. In this very room.
So again, this is the time we normally set aside on Sunday to ground, to settle, to center ourselves. And so I just invite us to get as comfortable as possible wherever you are. Maybe you have to shake the limbs, turn your head, wiggle your seat wherever you may be seating, and allow all the discomfort, all the frustration, all the stuff that's happened before this moment. Release it and let it be. Put it on the shelf somewhere. Because you can always pick it up later if you choose. And so let's take in a nice few deep cleansing breaths. So where you feel it in your diaphragm or in your gut. So let's breathe in deeply and hold it And release. Let's try that again. Breathe in deeply. Holding it. And release. And one more time. Breathe in. Hold it. And release. This morning is going to be a silent meditation. So I invite you to ignore any of the noises around you. They're not there. Just let them be. And go in to that deep space within. This is the beginning of a new year, a new month. What is it that you wish to bring in to carry you through 2023 for 360 some odd days? What is it that you long for to carry you through each day, one day at a time? So just go in and ask yourself, what does 2023 mean to me? Whatever the answer may be, down the road that can always change. For we are flexible, and things change as we move forward. But for this moment, whatever came to you, just tuck it away. And remember, what does 2023 mean to me? And so with that, let's take a nice deep cleansing breath in and release it. Allowing yourself to wiggle your fingers and your toes and maybe move your head a little bit. When you're ready, open your eyes and return to the room. And so it is. So we do the declaration now?
Yeah.
I'm going to turn it on. Share it. Reverend Vaughan's going to share the declaration. See it there?
Do you see it?
Right there. It's on my screen.
Okay.
Can you make it bigger? Well, here. Maybe I can do it. I guess I can't. Go over from current slide. Okay. Well, it didn't make bigger here, but anyway, it should be on your screen. So our declaration is, we are an expanding and loving community, working in a field of infinite potential. Now everybody, we are an expanding and loving community, working in a field of infinite potential. One more time, bring it from deep down within. We are an expanding and loving community, working in a field of infinite potential. And so it is. And we're back. Okay, the reading for today is called A New Year and a New You by Ernest Holmes. As we approach the new year, there is no need to let ourselves be bound by our old thought patterns. The resistance and the inertia of negative habits. Some may say, if you weren't very happy last year, how can you expect to be happy this year? Why can't you change this situation? I covet for all of us in the new year that we shall no longer be just theoretical, just filled with hope, which is wonderful, but that some dynamic proof shall come to each one, that each shall know that there has to be a way, a technique to approach and use the power greater than we are. It is so simple that very few people will believe it. It is the meaning back of our words, the feeling, the acceptance that give the words the only power they have. Prayer should be simple. Treatment should include only the one or the use of such words as have a meaning to us, and we should feel their full significance. We must come to know that this is very peculiar and elusive thing we call our mind is not our mind at all, but the one mind operating through us. I believe there is only one Spirit, and we live by it. There is only one law, and it operates through us. We must come to realize there is such a thing as spiritual energy, spiritual mind power, that each in the sanctuary of their own heart and soul may silently register the aspiration of their heart. And if they can induce their own mind to accept it, so shall the universe honor them. For everyone that asks receives, and they that seek find, and they that knock it shall be opened. Luke 10:11. It is impossible for it to fail. We may thus embark on the greatest adventure of the ages without arrogance, without fear, and I trust with a minimum of disbelief. And you and I, in embarking upon this great adventure, can we, by what we do in the silent sanctuary of our own contemplation, meditation, and prayer, see something happen in our own world of experience as a result of it which had not happened before, and prove that these signs shall and must follow them that believe? Or do we put the whole thing in reverse, and in our pessimistic utterances repeat the old formula of fear and failure and doubt and uncertainty? Or do we remain in neutral while nothing happens? This is for us to decide. The old year passes into the new and heralds in the possibility of triumph, the triumph of the Spirit in us. But it cannot be done by the dictate of some external authority. It can only occur in our own consciousness, when faith shall triumph over fear, love over hate, and compassion over unkindness. Then, at last, we shall sing, "Unto God be the glory." And so it is.
You raise me up.
So I know that that's a familiar song, You Raise Me Up by Josh Groban. And I wanted us to see some of the background because in today's talk, I'm going to explore the notion of intention. And I give thanks and I honor Reverend Kathy Ann Lewis, who used to celebrate every first Sunday exploring and having people look at intentions. And the reason that I'm leaning into that is because I want us to tap into the power of intentions. I'm sure everyone has heard the notion of a New Year's resolution. And I suspect, unless you're very, very unusual, that you may have shaken your hands and shaken the idea of setting resolutions. Because often resolutions are very targeted about, this year I'm going to eat better. This year I'm going to exercise more. This year I'm going to fill in the blank. And studies have demonstrated that notion of setting these resolutions doesn't tend to lead to the outcomes that we wanted. We've resolved this, but the problem with resolve is that it's so much of it is rooted in our willpower. So much is rooted in our ability to stay committed to that thing. The notion of intention turns it on its head. Deepak Chopra described that intention is the starting point of every dream, the creative power that fulfills our needs. And goes on to characterize that everything in the universe of our lives begins with our intentions. So we decide to do something. We decided in our minds, we decided in our hearts. For many years, I know Reba ran a business with buying and selling things. And you had to make how many decisions? Countless, seemingly countless decisions. But all of those decisions came from that place of yourself. Stephanie has talked about the decision to become a practitioner. And the decision after decision after decision in the midst of that training. She and Reverend Pamela have characterized that they had to become spiritual warriors to go through that training. That it wasn't just simply, hey, it's really sweet, you want to be a practitioner. Woohoo, we love you, we raise you, we praise you in the name of love, and lo verily, you are a practitioner. It wasn't that. It was that decision. It was that intention. It was that saying, I'm going to do this. And then, as everything came up as an obstacle, the ability to move through those obstacles. And intention is not something that dismisses everything so that things are easy. Now, I'll come back to the prospect of ease in a little bit. I'm not characterizing intention as an easy pass. As like I've got my bus pass, and it's just I pull out my bus pass, and I put it up against the thing on the on the bus, and it gets me on, but I have to carry it. So I want us to think about our intention kind of like the bus pass that we can be carrying along with us. One of the things about the bus pass is that we have to load it. The notion of an intention is that we have to have it. We can't just say, oh, it's my intention, but we've got to name our intention. And that's part of what I want us to do during today's service. Last week, Michael took us through a process of releasing what no longer served us and embracing what we wanted for this year. And one of the things that I identified is that I wanted to embrace the notion that I am more than enough. I was tired of that inner voice, those old habits, those old tapes that very merrily play the stuff. You're not good enough. You're not enough. You're just not sufficient. In the song, You Raise Me Up, one of the things that we saw, or that I hope you saw, I don't know about the technology today, but I hope that you saw that it was this mingling. It was all of these people coming together. The dancers need their practice, and they need their skill. And the singers, similarly, it doesn't just happen on the spur of the moment. It emerges. An intention, like that bus pass, lets us decide where we're going. It sets us. In the Upanishads, which are the spiritual tradition that you find in India, it declares you are what your deepest desire is. As your desire is, so is your intention. As your intention is, so is your will. As your will is, so is your deed. And as your deed is, so your destiny. So to get in touch with an intention, we have to open ourselves to consider our desires. For folks who have been following these Science of Mind teachings, one of the first things that I heard is a thought plus a feeling are both needed. A thought plus a feeling leads to an outcome. That desire is that feeling. The question is, how many times, how many tapes in our heads have we been taught to dispatch with and dismiss our feelings, to dispatch with and dismiss our desires? Can you ever think of any relationship where someone said, you shouldn't want that? That what you're wanting is crazy? That what you want to become, you shouldn't do that. Has anybody ever had their desires or their hopes stamped out? It's very easy to stamp out, isn't it? You hear something and you just so quickly, it's almost like when you cross your knee and the doctor hits your knee with the little hammer. And it's not a hammer, it's got a little rubber mallet. But your knee pops up. We can be so instantly reactive like that. And the rest of the world can be so instantly reactive like that to us. It's a habit rooted in fear. It's a habit rooted in... I mean, I can't imagine that any of our parents were like, they decided when they wanted to have us around, that it's like that they plotted, I want to have a child to make their life miserable. I know Phyllis has been parent to a number of children. And I know a moment that Phyllis ever thought, I want all of these children so that I can have these miserable lives. That Phyllis and her husband negotiated and said, how many miserable lives can we have? It's just not what parents do. Now, there may be a few parents out there who do that, but I don't know anybody in this circle of folks who have that. So those limits that folks set, those, oh, you can't do that stories, those messages, they emerge to protect us. They emerge to keep us safe. They come with good intentions. But, you know, in the past I've talked about kind of the line between our good intentions. Yeah, we've all got good intentions, but there's a distinction between our intentions and our impact. And so often we're very happy to lean into our intention and just disregard our impact. I really meant well. My mom was someone who was very ready to, I would have characterized it as nagging. Her way of describing it is, you needed reinforcement. It was, I experienced it as nagging. You should do this. You should do this. You should do this. You should do this. The first time I heard it, I immediately didn't want to do it. And every time after that, after that should increased my amount of resistance to any good advice that she had. Anybody ever feel like that? You should, and then it's like that there's just this natural like, no, I shouldn't. In fact, if you say I should, that means I just should not.
Or you can't.
Or Michael saying you can't. Sometimes you can't is like, I'll show you what I can't do. There's all kinds of stories about the you can't do that. Oh, yes, I can. Oh, yes, I will. So the notion of exploring intention is a route through those habits of mind, those habits of heart that we've acquired. So Deepak Chopra identifies 5 steps, and this comes from his 7 spiritual laws of success, and this is specifically the law of intention and desire. So Deepak Chopra's 7 spiritual laws of success, and the specific law is the law of intention and desires. So there are 5 steps. First step involves slipping into the gap. Huh? What? Slipping into the gap? It's finding the gap in the midst of all of the mind chatter that goes on. Anybody familiar with mind chatter? I'm seeing a nod here. I'm seeing a nod there. Seeing nods out there. Mind chatter. All of those thoughts, all of those feelings that just arise. And they are like the plastic floating about in the ocean. There's just so much of it. We know that there are gyres of it I think in all of the oceans. They're particularly huge in the Pacific and in the Indian Ocean and in the Atlantic Ocean. we have all of this garbage floating around. Slipping into the gap is being able to step away from that garbage. But part of the process to step away from the garbage, there's a couple steps that I'd have you consider. One, make the decision about the garbage that you're going to be reproducing, that you're going to be producing. You can catch a thought that arises, an old habit of mind, an old habit of heart, and just recognize it. And I was showing my daughters, they grew up in a time and an age when the concept of, when the comedian Bob Newhart, their faces are just blank. They don't know Bob Newhart. So I showed them that scene where a client comes to Bob Newhart and he says, we can do this in less than 5 minutes. Anything. And the client is just a little unsettled. Anything? Well, okay, but please know that it's going to be $1 a minute, and I don't offer change, and it's probably going to be a minimum of 5 minutes. So it's going to be at least $5. And she's just thrilled. She's excited because she's had her problem. And she's like, I just have so much trouble leaving my house. And he's like, okay. Listen very carefully. Stop it. And she's like, what? You heard what I said. Stop it. But doctor, it's been something that I've struggled with for years. Stop it. Just stop it. Actually, it wasn't leaving the room. It was that she's going to be buried. She's going to be buried alive. Well, that's crazy. Stop it. We can act as our own recognizers of when to stop it with all of the garbage that's floating about in our mind. So to slip into the gap, we allow ourselves to take that peaceful moment. And the peaceful moment is as available as our breath. And when we say, but I really can't, I'm going to do the Bob Newhart thing and just say, stop it. We can. We can take a breath simply by elongating it. Whatever thoughts and feelings are overwhelming us, we have the power to simply stop it. Now, I'm going to interpose another series of ideas with this. Carolyn Miss came up with an idea called the kingdom of consciousness, whereas we look at life happening to us, life happens by us, life happens through us, and life happens as us. So often when our thoughts and feelings arise, we think that it's happening to us, that the thoughts are being done to us. That simply settling allows for a sudden shift from it being done to us and by us to as us. There are spiritual traditions that describe a moment of peace and stillness, a sense of oneness with the universe as the numinous. That we can access life itself. So we can choose to slip into the gap. meditation is a practice that is commonly used as this. The meditation does not have to be a lengthy process. It can be a stilling of the breath in a moment. And instead of thinking, I've got to achieve a certain state, that sense of, I've had that numinous moment and I'm going to get back there. The problem with the I'm going to get back there is that we have taken in that kingdom of consciousness of by me. I've been there before and I'm going to get there again. And I'm going to do it no matter what. I remind us of those kingdoms of consciousness because I want us to consider them with greater gentleness and with greater kindness. Yes, things happen to us. But I don't want to shame us that things have happened to us. I think everybody here has at one point in time been to a doctor's office, been to a hospital, has needed help. That's being done to us. We don't go to the hospital and perform our own surgeries. I'm not aware of too many people that have done that. Even in the video, Josh Groban isn't doing the dancing. The dancing is being done, he's seeing it done to his music. Sometimes there are moments in life when life happens to us. And rather than critiquing ourselves or getting to a place of judgment about that, just pay attention to it. Just notice it. So, the first way to find our intentions is just to slip into the gap, to let go, to allow a space in the midst of all of the thoughts and feelings that arise. Now, when we're in that place of restful awareness, peaceful awareness, we actually release our intentions and desires. Michael, can you pull up the PowerPoint and show the picture of the monkey, which I got to share with everybody ahead of time, and you were probably wondering why this monkey.
Exactly.
Okay, so you'll notice that monkey's little hand is in the pot. Sometimes we are so struck by our desire that we just can't let go of it. The monkey pot, they've put seeds, they've put bananas, they put something in the pot, and the only way that the monkey can escape is if the monkey lets go. But a lot of times the monkeys don't let go, so the monkeys get captured. Many of you have probably heard the idea of monkey mind. We can't really enjoy and engage with our intentions and desires if we aren't willing to release them. To be in a state of peaceful presence. And again, I just wanted to show the picture of the monkey because sometimes it's helpful to have an object to draw to mind. But can any of us picture ourselves and how much we might have held on to something I can certainly describe, this still happens for me all the time. Michael will hear me complain, my blood sugar is 175 and rising, and I don't know why. I can't let go of, I want it to be perfect. It's 175 and rising. I think probably a code word is monkey. So the next time I'm complaining about my blood sugar rising, Michael might simply say, monkey. You might use that as a cue for yourself, monkey. Can we let it go? Allowing these things to come to us without holding on to them. Allowing. So we slip into the gap and we allow. We allow our intentions and our desires. We've talked before about the notion of taking a forest shower, going for a walk in the woods, and that it has a soothing effect. That we can similarly just take a walk in our desires, take a walk in our intentions. But we wouldn't get very far if we were to hold on to every branch we've tried to pass, would we? Can you imagine that kind of walk? The third step kind of follows pretty naturally from the second step, remaining centered in a state of restful awareness. And the way to this is really just in a place of gratitude and contentment with what is. Now, I'm naturally going to raise up the idea that sometimes it's really hard to feel grateful. But the easiest way to come to gratitude and contentment is to just to find the smallest thing. Does the shoe on your foot, how does it feel? Does it feel okay? It feels okay. Can you have gratitude for that? If you have an article of clothing that it's not chafing, it's just there, can you find gratitude for that? We watched a flash of the scenes of 2022, and this person was just so grateful when they said, "You're not going to have to wear a mask on a plane anymore." And the person took off the mask and says, "I can finally breathe." And Michael made the comment, you were actually breathing before you took down the mask, because if you weren't breathing, you'd be dead. Can you be grateful that you were just that you got a breath? Can you find gratitude for the fact that your heart is beating and you're not having to give it instructions for every heartbeat that your heart does? Can you be grateful for all of the things that the body does naturally? You take in a piece of food, you don't have to be then thinking, okay, saliva, you need to do this. Teeth, you need to mix the food with the saliva. Isn't it great that we have all of these things that are happening so automatically? So that third step is contentment, and I'm recommending gratitude as a pathway to contentment. The fourth step that Deepak talked about was the idea of detaching from the outcome. Yeah, Michael just did it. Attachment comes from fear and insecurity. We've already seen that, Michael's still showing the monkey thing. Let's move on to the next picture.
Can you see it?
It hasn't shifted for me yet. Yep, now I see it. And I hope you all see it. Detaching from the outcome. You'll notice that this is a hand and it is planting the seed. We've all heard this before, but it's helpful again to have an image. Sometimes an image is more powerful than a concept. A seed isn't going to do squat if we keep it in our hands. You have to plant it. And you have to, generally speaking, you have to cover it. Detaching from the outcome. Intend for everything to work out. Imagine that it can work out. Fifth step. Letting the universe handle the details. As this person is planting the seeds, they don't have to tell the seeds what to do, what they're going to do. Same way as when we're chewing food, we don't have to tell our bodies what to do with the food. There is a wisdom that permeates all of the universe. That's going to be my claim. Now, you can choose to accept that or not, but I'm going to claim that there's a wisdom that permeates all the elements of the universe. And I'm going to have us hold on to the notion of that wisdom from the broadest possible perspective. Sometimes human beings get fixated about our own kind of wisdom. One of the lovely things about nature is that I can't speak for you, but I can't speak for myself. Sometimes going into nature, there can be a sense of restoration that happens. I've talked before about how seeing Mount Rainier can be a really inspirational moment for me. And one of the other things that comes about with that inspiration is that there are times that I don't see Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier is not always visible. And ultimately, my day is not good or bad depending on my ability to see or not see Mount Rainier. For me, Mount Rainier serves as a beautiful metaphor, a beautiful analogy for the presence of wisdom, for the presence of joy, for the presence of beauty. I might not always see it, but my seeing it doesn't have to be there's a special word for it. It's called solipsistic, Whereas the world only happens according to what I see and what I'm conscious of. So if anything is outside of my seeing or outside of my consciousness, it doesn't exist. The other day, Michael and I were watching The Good Place. And one of the characters arrives in the good place and just can't let go of the idea that she's a neurologist. And she's like, this can't be real. This is just a figment of my brain. And this other person tells her, well, that's all very possible. But if you just go on treating the whole world as if there's nothing else except you in the world, then you go around in the world acting pretty badly. She was at a party and she knocked over the cake. And she put the cake all over herself. And no one else at the party could enjoy the cake because she didn't believe that there was anybody else at the party. She believed the only one at the party was her. But the character, the moral philosopher, said, what if we hold out the idea that there's something more? So what I'd like us to do is I'd like us to just take a moment and just be still. And as we find a space of stillness, form the question, what is my intention for 2023? And I'm going to give you some parameters. What is my intention, and how can I name it in a word? How might I name it as a name of the divine? Might it be joy? Or peace? Or beauty? Might it be faith? Presence? Power? Might it be truth? Wisdom? Ease? Grace? What creates a little bit of a tremor of excitement? What sets up a resonance in your soul? Maybe this intention is familiar. Maybe it's brand new. And when you have a sense of your intention, imagine breathing it in. not as a finished product, but perhaps as a light leading the way. So if the attention has come to you, treat it as a welcomed companion. If the intention has not yet come in a fully formed way, allow its presence to continue to become clearer. Allow yourself to have an attitude of gratitude. That you have this companion. And that this companion may be acting in your light, in your life, through those stages of consciousness that I described. Sometimes this companion may be acting to you. Sometimes this companion may show up by you because you willed it and you said it's going to be this way. Sometimes it may be happening as you. Sometimes it's happening through you. But just let that tingle of gratitude, and however it expresses, be present. I want to share a story about the Tao. A new disciple meets his master and asks, "How do I get ready for this year?" And the master says, "Think of this year as a bell. The harder you strike the melody of the vibration. Tap me softly and you get a tiny ding. Strike the year hard and you receive a loud roaring chime. If you open yourself to the Tao will eagerly welcome you. If you open yourself to virtue, virtue will become part of you. If you open yourself to loss, the lost are glad to see you. I'll say it again. If you open yourself to the Tao will eagerly welcome you. If you open yourself to virtue, virtue will become a part of you. If you open yourself to loss, the lost will be glad to see you. And finally, just a little piece of homework. You've hopefully got your intention. And if you don't have your intention, you've got a space to let the intention emerge. just take a walk in nature sometime this week. I was talking about it, I was referring to it. Take a walk in nature. Use all of your senses. See, hear, smell, touch. And if you can't go out in nature, so say we have ice storms all week long, and you're like, I'm not doing that. That Reverend Vaughan said to get outside in nature, and I'm not doing that. That's not safe. Then practice it with either a pet, a neighbor's pet, a friend's pet, or even a plant. Any living creature. And finally, I have an affirmation, but it's going to be a little different. So the affirmation is, I embody divine, and then the final word is your intention. I embody divine. I embody divine wisdom. I embody divine wisdom. And so it is.
Okay. I would sing for you, but you'd probably go away crying. Thank you, Reverend Vaughan, for walking us through this. You know, the notion of intention. You know, and I remember Kathy Ann's workshops where we go through the intentions and the way you achieve that intention. Let's see what else is in here. Yes, I think a lot of times we get stuck in the to me, that the whole world is doing everything to us, to me. Wah, wah, wah. That's, I get that way sometimes. And the pity pot's okay, but, you don't want to stay there too long. And then one of the biggest, I think the hardest steps is detaching from the outcome. Because when we want something, we have this picture of exactly what it should look like, what it should feel like, what it should be, or what the situation, how it should turn out. And that's not always possible. I mean, that's not the way the divine sees it, and sometimes by doing that, we're limiting ourselves. And because the divine, I believe in my great wisdom, that the divine knows better than I do in most cases. Maybe not all, but most cases. When you ask for, when you're treating for something, you may be thinking too small. Because sometimes we want just this little bit. Yet the divine says, well, how much good can you handle? And I think that's what we need to ourselves. How much good can I handle? How much good can you handle? And so letting go of that, the idea of that outcome, and knowing that it is going to be good, it's going to be great, it's going to be grand, is a wonderful thing. And so as we come to the close of this service on the first day of the first month of a brand new year, I just want to speak my word of gratitude for each and every one of you that are here, and that we're still connected, even with all the faux pas of the gremlins that live in the technical universe that sometimes I think want to challenge me and test me. We're still connected, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for making it to this year, 2023. One of our friends the other day made the remark that he said, I can't believe that we're almost a quarter way through this century. And I never thought of that before. Because I remember when we moved into this century, you know, the YK2 and everything was going to be, oh my God, the world's coming to an end, the YK2. Yet we're almost almost a quarter way through it. And where did the time go? So, and I'm grateful for this new year. I'm grateful for all the support and all the love and the intentions, the good intentions, with a good impact of people. And so with that, I give thanks for this time together. I let it go, I let it be, and so it is.